Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Stephen King's Silver Bullet from 1985. And joining me once again is author Owen Quinn. How are you, Owen?
Just feel aged, but when you said 1985 there, I was like, oh my god, is it that long ago?
I know.
I remember it the first time round.
I was uh,
Terrible.
I was one I was 1 years old.
So was I. Yeah, I was
Yeah, yeah,
one
yeah.
as well.
You were one for the 10th
Yeah,
time.
yeah. I still am. 40 years later.
So you suggested doing this movie for the podcast. It had been on my list for a very long time, and you suggested it, and I finally got around to watching it, and I'm really glad I did because I enjoyed it quite a bit. I would say this is a very underrated werewolf movie. Would you agree?
100%. 100%. It's actually based on the novella, the Stephen King novella, Cycle of the Werewolf,
Yeah,
which I didn't read. I didn't read it before I watched the movie. I watched the movie first, and I honestly, like as you said, 1985. I bought the novella last year, so it's been a long way round to get to the book.
yeah,
And I have to say, the book's entertaining, other novellas entertaining enough, and it's very different in structure to the movie. And I think in this case, it's the better version of the story
the movie is.
compared to the book. The movie's definitely the better version because it's more condensed.
Yeah,
Whereas in the novella, it's spread over a year, and they're not in the same town. Whereas this one, obviously, as you know, they're in the same town, and it's a smaller space of time, which actually adds to the tension of it.
yeah.
Which I love werewolves anyway. I'm a huge fan,
I
which
love
is why I've just done,
I love a good.
yeah, I've just done Wolves of Chernobyl and other stories. The Time Warriors, please buy.
Go check them out.
Shameful plug.
Go for it. Why not?
Um, but I love werewolves done well. I don't like werewolves that are like the vampire guys. They're just huskies with shiny eyes. That's not a werewolf to me. You're talking about the likes of Dog Soldiers, Bad Moon, Underworld. But for Silver Bullet, for me, there's a fairy tale quality to this werewolf,
Yeah,
and a very interesting slant to what a werewolf is, and because of who the werewolf is,
yeah,
I thought that was very, very, very clever,
yeah.
and that's why I love this movie so much. There's almost fairy tale in quality. Um, I've watched it loads and loads and loads of times. Um, but this was your first time watching it, wasn't it?
This was my first time watching it, yeah, and I really wish I had gotten around to it sooner because, as I said, I
Mm,
enjoyed it quite a bit. The movie's also the screenplay's also done by Stephen King himself,
yeah, yeah.
and
He adapted it from the book.
yeah, and the film has a very Stephen King feel, I think.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, so we'll give a brief rundown of the plot, and then we'll dig into the reasons why we think you should watch this movie. So it's a very basic plot on the surface. You have a werewolf who's killing folks in a town, a little town. I can't remember the name of the town. Do you remember the name of the town?
Parker's Mill.
That's the one. Um, a young boy who he's a disabled boy. He's in a wheelchair. Marty, 11. He convinces his sister Jane, who's 15, and his uncle Red that it is in fact a werewolf doing the killing. And together, at the very end, when the werewolf comes for Marty, because the werewolf knows that Marty knows who he really is, so he comes for him, and they defeat the werewolf, and that's kind of the really basic rundown of the plot. So, Owen, what is it about this movie you really like?
As I said, as you just said as well, it's a simple, straightforward story. There's no frills or over gore.
Yeah,
Um, as we were talking about last time, it's just a simplicity about it, and I think the fact of who the werewolf is brings a whole new magic to it, because when you see the start of the movie and the guy on the railroad that is decapitated, the town drunk called Arnie Westrom, and the police think it's just an accident, and then you open up in Harker's Mill, meet the main characters, and then the first murder begins. And will we say who the werewolf is at this point?
We'll get to that in a second. One thing I just wanted to...
Yeah.
One of the reasons I like this movie quite a bit is that almost all the characters have something interesting going on. Even the smaller characters. So as you said, we get to the second kill and... Excuse me. And... even that, like, that could have been just as simple, okay, this person dies next, and it could have just been a, horror gore scene, but even that character has a lot going on. So we see at the start of the movie that she's fallen pregnant, and when she tells the man who got her pregnant that she is pregnant, he denies it's his, and he kind of walks off, leaves her crying on a bench, and then later she goes to take her own life. But the werewolf kills her first. So the werewolf kills her before she's taken her own life. So even that small side character has a lot going on.
Yeah.
They
but you meet her mother as well. So as we were talking about making the smallest characters as in Austin Powers style. So you give them a background, but in that one thing, you have a whole background. I think the guy's married as well.
Yeah.
Which is why he doesn't want her. He was just having a bit of fun, but he ended up getting her pregnant.
Yeah, he even...
It's also...
when he's walking off, he says...
Yeah,
when he's walking off, he says, just remember the good times.
Yeah.
Because he's a prick.
I know, nice look at state of him. Yeah, so she's pregnant to a married man. It's a small town, big scandal, as these places usually have. And the impact will be... her only option is to commit suicide. But if you notice in her bedroom, there's holy relics. So there's it's obviously a religious town, one of those small American towns where everybody goes to church on a Sunday and God's part of the culture. So she's going against her own religion because of this, because the situation is so bad. But when the werewolf attacks, I mean, it is a wee bit gory, but nothing awful. We're not stuff flying around the room. It's savage.
Yeah. The
attack, and it's almost from like the TV series From I keep telling you about.
Yeah.
That's the sort of attack you get in the first scene. When you at that point you don't know who the killer is or who the werewolf is, so it'll actually make sense on another level once you get to know who that actually is.
Yeah, and she even says herself that killing yourself she knows it's one of the biggest sins you can commit, because she believes like your soul is condemned for eternity, but she goes to do it anyway. So that just shows her mental state.
Yeah, so she's in pieces. But yeah, it actually is. It's actually very important to the plot in understanding the character of the werewolf. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Well, you do, but because, like, in a werewolf movie, it just kills people and that's it. It moves on.
Yeah.
But in this movie, I think this is part of the appeal for me. It's all linked, and there's actually very good reasons for everything that happens in this movie.
Yeah.
And what the reason behind the killings is coded in an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about who the killer is.
Yeah. So we'll talk about the two main kids, Marty and Jane. We'll talk about their relationship for a bit. So Marty and Jane have a very strained relationship. Jane describes Marty as the cross I have to bear. She's very frustrated that so much is put on her when it comes to Marty and looking after him. The parents put a lot on her. So at the very start of the movie, there's a scene where Marty and his friend play a prank on Jane, and she falls over and her tights get ruined, and she screams, "I hate you," to Marty, and she calls him a bugger, which I thought was funny. Then on the car trip home, the parents aren't very sympathetic to Jane when she's telling them about the prank, and she says, you always take his side because he's crippled, and she says it's not my
Mm-hmm.
fault. It's not my fault she's crippled, or sorry, it's not my fault he's
Yeah.
crippled, and
Yeah.
very harsh. And Marty apologized and said he didn't mean to take things that far. So he's not a bad kid, and in that scene, I kind of felt for the both of them, and I was kind of invested in their relationship and where it was going to go throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of
Well,
these two?
it's very, for me. I agree. For it's there's a reality to the movie that in your characters. That's now just to explain. When I watched this, I was two-legged person, but now I'm a one-legged person. So I'm actually watching it now from another different angle, which is really strange. And I completely understand the frustrations of a family with somebody in a disabled thing. Now, I have a prosthetic leg. I don't really use a wheelchair anymore. I refuse to be defined by the wheelchair.
Yeah,
But Marty has no choice. He still has his legs. He just can't walk. But those strains on the family are very, very real and very grounded because it always is the expected of the siblings to sort of help out, even if they don't want to. And in this case, because there's only two of them, Jane's hitting puberty. She's becoming a young lady. She wants to go meet boys and stuff, but instead she's stuck with. She wants to look pretty all the time. It's why the when they destroy her dress and her stockings, it's not, it doesn't go down well.
yeah,
But she's stuck with Marty, so Marty is kind of the bane of her existence. But she loves him at the same time because she knows it's not his fault.
yeah.
So
Even
it's really the
after
parents.
when they get home after that scene, Marty gives Jane money for new tights and says he wants to make up, and he said that because his friend was largely at fault for the prank going too far, and he wants to make up with her. So like he's not a bad kid at all,
Yeah.
but she does get
No,
frustrated that the parents take his side a lot, and there's a
all the
lot.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, and she has to do a lot for Marty. So you can see that frustration building and building throughout the film.
Yeah, and that's also that frustration. It's like, she'll hurt him just by words when she tells him about his Uncle Red and the divorce.
Yeah,
Um, it's to hurt him because he's an alcoholic, I think she says.
and he's
So
getting a divorce.
she won't hurt him. She's frustrated, but that's very, very real. Even today, it's still a disability will affect the family. A disability if you. I think he had an accident earlier in his life, which is why he's in the wheelchair. But if you look at and haven't gone through this now myself, it can put a huge strain on the family where they're trying. Say you're walking outside with them, and you have to be pushed if you're in a wheelchair. And I remember when I was first in a wheelchair, we went shopping just to get out of the house, and I ended up being the shopping trolley. So it was toilet rolls and dog food and all sorts of stuff through on top of me, and I just went, "Get me home, get me home."
Right.
It's really, yeah, because you're frustrated at the same time
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you can't, you're not like everybody else anymore, and then the family has got that extra strain of you. It's an extra thing they have to look after when they're out, which is why as you know, I'm very independent and walk everywhere I can. But that's the other part I really like about this movie is though that's a real brother and sister relationship, even without the disability. You always have the brother and sister fighting, or the brother fighting, and then mom and dad will always pick one side over the other.
Yeah.
So there's a reality here in that, especially with, like his best friend's a brat. But I mean that's life. That's real life, which I love about it.
Yeah.
As I said, the whole that is almost magical, but there's nothing extraordinary in this movie except the werewolf. It's all normal people
Yeah.
thrown into a super normal situation, and how to try and deal with that.
Yeah, and no one's perfect in the movie, which I like.
No, no,
And Marty,
no, definitely.
his his uncle Red, he makes him a motorized wheelchair thing, which is essentially a
Yeah,
motorbike. And I think it was called the Silver Bullet, wasn't it?
yeah, it was. Yeah,
Yeah, so
my
he,
Uncle Red's played by Gary Busey.
yeah, who I thought
Um,
was fantastic in this movie.
he's brilliant. It's actually got my favorite line
Which
of the
it,
movie, which we'll say later.
okay, cool.
But Gary Busey's so good. But I like Gary Busey as an actor, and like Under Siege is just makes me laugh every night.
Oh,
Predator 2. Oh, he was in something the other night where they're all shooting. Oh yeah, a soldier with Kurt Russell.
oh,
And one I'd forgot about. It's almost like Universal Soldier,
yeah,
but Guy is in that as well, and he's a good guy. He's just very good. I know he was in the Big Brother house, but let's face it, he's like 83 now or something.
right.
He's very old and he's still going, but he was a cracking actor, and I don't think anybody else could have done this as well as him
Yeah,
because of how involved he becomes in their story of being told there's a werewolf in the town.
yeah. You forget how many good roles he's actually had.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
really good, really good actors. A lot, and there's a lot of really good actors in this movie, though.
yeah. So we'll
And
focus.
I think you know, believe, sorry, I think you can also believe in him and his nephew and his niece's relationship
Yeah,
because the kids. Oh God, what do you call the wee kid?
Marty.
Ah,
Marty.
Marty. Marty's mother is his sister, so you're mirroring their relationship with Marty and his sister's relationship.
Yeah,
So it's like grown up version and the younger version, which is there's all these nice little touches of character.
yeah. He even he
Which
even
I
he even says that at the end. He says, "You're a lot like we were at your age."
yeah, yeah, yeah. I just think it's very nuanced, and I think this is what puts it above the average horror movie
Yeah, for
because you
sure.
wouldn't get none of that in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah,
There's none of that character or none of this. But when you watch this as a whole, you go, "Oh my god, this is so simple." I think it's just because it's so simple.
yeah. As I said earlier, they put the effort in to make sure the characters all had something interesting going on, even the smaller
Mm-hmm.
ones. Even the opening of the movie, which is like a really quick kill, but even that character, like they don't believe it was a murder because he's a drunk, and they believed it was an
Yeah.
accident because he's known to be a drinker. So even he had something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody's got a background here, and
Um,
you can tell they're all connected in the time, which is really really good.
yeah. So we'll focus a bit on Marty for a second. So there's a line the mother says that kind of highlights a few things. So she's talking. It was back when Jane was telling the parents about the prank, because Marty's friend was up a tree and he dropped a snake down on her, and that's when she got a fright and fell
Mm-hmm.
over. And the mother kind of she makes excuses for Marty sometimes, and she takes his side, and she says to Jane, he couldn't have climbed up that tree to stop Brady anyway. And then
Mm-hmm.
later we see that Marty does climb up a tree and he climbs out his bedroom window, and this kind of implies that perhaps the mother underestimates Marty's ability. She's not aware of what he's capable of, and I thought that was an interesting aspect to the movie.
Yeah, you've also got the aspect there of she feels responsible somehow for the accident, and because she's his mum, she wasn't there to protect him or stop it from happening. So there is a self blame aspect to that as well.
Yeah,
And the
um,
husband just goes along with because he's the husband. He just says yes dear. But I think that's and it's not even they just go, oh, I feel so guilty and blah blah blah. It's there under the surface, and
yeah,
it's just their actions and their dialogue
yeah.
put it out.
Um, and the mother is worried that Red, the Uncle Red, played by Gary Busey, is having a bad influence on Marty, and she wants him to stop drinking around him. They get into an argument, and Red says about Marty, you need to realize there's more to him than not being able to walk. And she pushes back
Yeah,
on this, and they go back and forth, and she says, Marty has enough strikes against him as it is. I'm worried that someday he's just going to give up. And then Red says, he's not going to give up. And then she says, well, I don't need you showing him how to do it. And I like this scene a lot. It shows their two perspectives on Marty.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought it was really well
And
acted as well. I think the acting throughout was pretty solid.
I think everybody, the whole movie, as I said, it's one of them gems that nobody really knows, but you should all watch it because it's so well done. It should have been a bigger sort of movie, but I understand again that aspect of it. You don't realize, or you what is it? You underestimate Marty, what he can and can't do,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, like
I know.
she
I
doesn't even realize that he can climb trees and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, or get out the window.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
Um, but I understand that, and I understand it now because people look at me and think, "Oh, he can't do this, and he can't do that," but I can.
Yeah.
I can do most things. But people, when they see somebody like me, it's on an automatic. Oh, he can't, and we had all better fuss around him, and fussing around you is good, but it leaves you very flustered, and you're sort of like get a bit face burning and stuff. It's sort of
Yeah.
it's a bit sort of just let me do my own thing. But yeah, I understand that scene much better now.
Yeah. Like
That
people see Marty as
yeah,
being very limited, but he's
yeah,
actually a very capable kid who doesn't give up
yeah,
easily.
yeah. A lot of disabled people are like that, but people can't help thinking that because the first thing you want to do is help them, which is great.
Yeah.
The amount, do you know what? I'm just going to throw this in. The amount of young people, when I get on the bus into the town, they get up to give me a seat.
Right.
Say this generation's hope. I have so much hope for this generation because they're giving me a seat. And I
Yeah.
went to Dublin Comic Con and there was no seats. And the young ones, again, I just thought, yeah, there's hope for us yet. There's hope for the planet yet.
Oh, there's some.
Which is what, but yeah, a lovely commentary on disability.
There's still a lot of good folks out there.
Yeah, 100%.
Um,
100%.
there's this a bit later. So later we get a scene at a funeral. So Marty's friend Brady was killed by the werewolf. He was, it implies that it was pretty brutal. He was torn apart, and
Yeah.
they're at the funeral for Brady, and Uncle Red during the funeral goes to sneak a drink, and he glances at Marty and then puts the drink away. And I thought that was a nice little character bit. So some of the stuff the mother was
Yeah.
saying, he's kind of taken in. He's like
Okay.
starting to change a little bit. And just that little moment
Yeah.
where they don't make a big fuss in it. No one's like, "Oh, well done, you put your drink away. I'm proud of you." It's just a bit you
Yeah.
notice or you don't, and I liked it.
It's the same on the car. I think when Brady is murdered, um, it's the kite with the blood on it. You don't see anything else at all. You don't even see the body. You just see a father's reaction, and the kite says it all. The big yellow kite with a smiley face, and it is just saturated with blood. And the sheriff, played by Terry O'Quinn,
Yeah,
known best from Lost as John Locke, he's reciting the Rosary or something, I think,
yeah,
or Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners. Actually, he's not much of a shock. It's that horrific, but you don't see it. So that's another lovely thing. You don't see the murder, but automatically it's playing in your head and you're imagining it,
I
which is also the best part. You don't need to show it. It's imply it and show the aftershock of it,
I thought
which
that.
makes it even more visible.
Yeah, I thought that was very effective when you just see his reaction
Mm.
and he's walking with the bloody kite and he's reciting the prayer.
Yeah.
It's very effective, and they don't linger on gore much. It's nothing
No.
too explicit.
No, it's not. And again, it brings in the God aspect, the religious aspect of the time.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
but
now,
yeah, it's just
so now we can. I'm sure you've been dying to reveal who this werewolf is. So we're going to talk about the creature and who the creature turns out to be. And
yeah,
Owen has said that he has spotted one flaw in this movie that he hasn't told me what it is, and I'm dying to
no,
hear what this flaw is. I'm sure he's dying to say
no,
it.
no, no.
Um,
I
do you know
gonna
what?
say the murderer.
We'll talk about the creature first and who he is and all that, and then we'll get round to it.
Yeah,
So it turns out that the werewolf turns out to be Reverend Lowe, and that's what you were kind of saying. You like who the werewolf was. You like that aspect of it.
Yeah, because again, religion, but the priest being the werewolf, and its town so small, is awesome because when you will find out why he killed the girl at the start, the pregnant girl at the start, but his killings are based in religion, and he's taken the faith in the Bible and twisting it to suit the needs of the werewolf. Because he's not just a werewolf one day of the full moon. The story, the cycle of the werewolf is he's always a werewolf, but the closer it gets to the full moon,
Yeah.
the more wolfy he becomes. So when he's doing the likes of the girl, he's looking at her and going, okay, suicide is a sin, so I'm going to save you from suicide and send you to heaven.
Yeah.
So I'm stopping. So it's classed in religion, which we found out later on. But all this werewolf, I just thought was so unique because the priest is a werewolf. He's going to use the Bible to justify what he is, because at the end of the day, God created everything. So there must be a place in creation for God, in creation for the werewolf, and this must be what he was sent to do as a priest. And it's just awesome. And he's played by Everett McGill.
Oh, I
Who,
think he's fantastic in this movie.
yeah, yeah, Heartbreak Ridge. Probably everybody knows him from him up against Clint Eastwood. But in this, he's just frightening.
Yeah,
Absolutely frightening.
he's such a good villain. Like that scene where he has
Yeah,
Marty trapped in the bridge and he's just slowly walking towards him, and the way he's talking
yeah.
and moving, like it's just brilliant.
Mhm.
So
And that,
intimidating.
that that yeah, and like he's just tried to kill Marty by smashing him off a bridge with his car, and Marty escapes, get into the bridge, and runs out of petrol. So he's in this rickety old bridge in the middle of nowhere and no hope because he can't run. And then he comes, as you said, and he says his speech, and that's where he talks about the girl. I delivered her, and it was like, what? You know, and that's actually, it's not even far fetched because in the mind of a monster, that's exactly what they would be thinking. Although
Yeah.
I did her a favour because I saved her from the fires of hell by ripping her apart and traumatizing her mother for the rest of her life. And by the way, I killed an unborn child in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But I was justified. And that's why, because werewolves just kill everything that's going. But there's a thought and an action and a structure behind this one.
Yeah.
And it's a priest makes it much, much more scary than a normal one.
Yeah.
Even his face at that, do you remember? And he's walking on the bridge, he has the stubble, and
Yeah.
he's like a 5 o'clock shadow, and it's all, he's even closer to the full moon at this point, so you can see the physical changes. Even his face looks almost angular with the lighting and the direction. And
Yeah.
his voice is so low, it's like almost a growl. It's just, I can't even tell you how good it is, but you have to go and watch it.
Yeah,
Because he is one
absolutely.
of the villains. For me, there's two villains really in the 80s. Was Reverend Lowe and Silver Bullet, and then Reverend Henry Kane in Poltergeist 2. Those are the two
Ah.
scariest villains
I have not
ever.
seen Poltergeist 2 in so long, I can't remember it.
Awesome.
I'll have to recap that. Yeah, so they find out he's the werewolf because there's a scene where Marty's playing with fireworks at night time and the werewolf comes along and Marty shoots a firework into the wolf's eye. So he tells his sister that, we should be looking out for a one-eyed man, assuming that when he turns back into a man, he's going to be missing an eye. And they finally come across the priest and he's missing an eye. He's wearing an eye patch. So that was a neat little way of finding out who the werewolf was. Um,
No, that's what the flaw was.
I was thinking it might be something to do with
That,
that, so I didn't want to say
that's the flaw.
we'll
That's the flaw because,
well,
wait, I mean,
all right, go for it.
in a previous scene, after Brady's funeral, you see Brady's funeral, right?
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden you're back to that scene, and it's Reverend Lowe on the pulpit preaching to everybody, and then the whole congregation turn into werewolves.
yeah,
The body from the cop. No, sorry, it's not Brady's funeral. it's another scene where all the town goes up in arms, go into the swamp looking for him. He murders a load of them, so it's a multiple funeral. So even the bodies in the coffin punch out and turn into werewolves, and he's standing all like hands up in front of him, pleading for them to get. But and then he wakes up in bed and goes, "God, please let it end."
Yeah.
Then we get the rocket in the eye. Then you have Jane going around checking everybody to find the eyes. I think if you drop that scene and he hadn't got it in at all, and Jane went round and suddenly he was revealed as having one eye, that's where they made a huge mistake, because the right tipped you off to who it was, and that's the flaw in Silverbolt. That's the only reason it doesn't get 100%. It gets 99.9.
So you think it's
you think
it's a flaw that we know before the character does?
Huge, because as an audience, you don't want to tell the audience, you don't want to tip them off. You want the reveal of a villain to be a surprise, and the last person you would think of really is a priest in that town. And by putting that scene in where the priest is dreaming of why would he be dreaming of werewolves?
I think it's I think it's to imply that he is feeling really guilty about taking so many lives, and perhaps he's worried about more people turning into werewolves, and that this thing is actually a nightmare for him.
Yeah, 100%. It is a nightmare for him. Again, as we were talking about earlier, that's the layered part of this werewolf's character. He doesn't like what he's doing, but he justifies it in using it to get in the Bible. So the Bible says you must do this. So he hates what he is, but he still has no control over it. So he still acts in those impulses. But to do that before you got the reveal of who really got one eye, a rocket in one eye, I think that would be much more powerful. So Janie's round the town, she's giving Marty one, he tells so many lies, I'm so stupid for believing him. And she doesn't know because Reverend Lowe has his back to her. So he says to put the bottles in the garage, and then she sees the pacemaker belonging to the bartender. A pacemaker's a baseball bat whenever a crowd starts fighting in the bar. And then she turns around and there's Reverend Lowe with an eye patch, and she is trapped in a garage with him. That's a much more powerful reveal than putting that sequence with the werewolf funeral is.
Yeah, I initially thought that would have been good if we find out when she does. But I think the other way, I'm a bit mixed on it, because you get a bit of dramatic irony where, like, oh shit, she's in danger and she doesn't know it. But I think I agree that I would have rather if we found out when she did.
Yeah. For me, that's the only bad thing. It's just bad editing, really.
I'm not sure about that, because it's all very purposefully done, I think.
Yeah, but I think if they took it out and put it in as a deleted scene, maybe afterwards.
Right.
But just the positioning of it.
Yeah.
Even before Marty sticks him in the eye with the rocket, it sort of it takes away the powerful impact of who it really is, because we know she's going to find out it's the priest. But we don't. But it would be much better, because like when the town goes up in arms and go out hunting in the swamp, it's actually the funniest part of the film.
I like that scene a lot. That
was so funny. And the bird, one guy gets his leg caught in a bear trap. His mate pulls him, opens it for him, and then there's somebody screams or shoots, and he lets go of it and cuts the leg again. And it's just, they're in the fog, and the fog's up to their waist, and they know the wolf's underneath. And they're going, oh, I can't move. Don't you make lemonade in your pants?
That's the line that got me, yeah. That made me laugh. Yeah. Don't make lemonade in your pants.
And they'll start getting attacked and get pulled under the fog. And then the peacemaker was on the baseball bat. The bar owner goes under the fog, beating the wolf. And next thing, the wolf's hand comes up with the baseball bat, beating the bar owner.
I thought it was
beautiful comic.
Yeah, it was funny, but still kind of scary. It was really well. I like how a lot of that scene is shot, and I like in general that for the majority of the movie they obscure the werewolf, which I like. There's a lot of POV shots, and In that scene, he's like under the fog, and you just see his arm coming up, and the scene on the bridge where
Yeah.
he's approaching Marty. It's just you can just see his hands as he walked towards him.
Yeah, they show bits of him, like they did in Alien. They only show bits of the alien before the
Yeah.
big reveal.
You don't
But
get that too much
in the
these
thing,
days. These days they're too
no.
eager to show everything off too much.
These days they're putting it in the trailer, and they're putting the plot in the trailer. That's just dumb. Like oh god, what do you call it? Terminator Genesis. They put the biggest spoiler in the movie in the trailer of John
Yeah.
Connor being the
Yeah.
Terminator. It's just happening all the time. There's some trailers now you can actually watch, and you don't need to watch the movie because it tells you. See, if you see a trailer that's 2 minutes, 3 minutes long, you know it's not going to be such a good movie
You've probably
because it's
seen.
all there. Everything you need to know is there. Like Cocaine Bear. Cocaine Bear. There was only one scene wasn't in the trailer that was funny, but the rest of the funny ones were in the trailer.
Yeah.
Have you seen Cocaine Bear?
I haven't. It's on my list on Netflix, but I haven't watched it yet. It looks. It looks.
Rubbish.
It looks really entertaining.
It is entertaining, but one of them ones when you do it's a drinking game. So you don't go to the cinema drinking, yeah. Or if you go to them cinemas that actually do serve drinks, it's much funnier. It is rubbish, but it's entertaining rubbish.
Yeah.
But it does make a great drinking game. It really does. Some is just laugh out loud hilarious.
Yeah.
But it wasn't hilarious when the wolf grabbed them under the fog. And if you look at that scene as well, when all the townspeople are getting out in their jeeps, it's the Reverend Lowe, who's trying to stop them, and you don't know at that point that he's the well, you do, isn't it? 'Cause, no, you don't. No, he's at that. You sort of think, oh, he's shouting, don't go, don't go. And then when you find out that he's actually the werewolf, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the murder of the girl, the murder of Brady is just a savagey thing.
Yeah.
I think there isn't a real religious, unless he's being punished for his sins for what he did to
Jane.
the girl at the start, Jean. Yeah. Jeannie.
Yeah.
Is it Jeannie?
Jane.
Yeah. Jane, that's it. Unless that's punishing him for sins for that. But it could also be the first murder was religion.
Well, it's interesting as well because he says to Marty that I wouldn't
willingly hurt a child.
Yeah, he said I wouldn't willingly hurt a child, but he did kill Brady, and there doesn't seem to be much of a reason behind it.
And the unborn baby. Yeah, and the unborn baby. So he's actually killed 2 kids.
Yeah.
So far. So it's his sort of, but again, that's a nice twisted logic. You can see the twisted werewolf logic in his head.
Yeah.
Because that's the monster speaking. So he's literally traumatized. So how does he justify the killings? So he's doing the good thing for the time. And I was actually thinking about this the other night. Why there's so many horror movies and stuff or alien invasions set in small towns rather than big cities, because it heightens the tension.
Yeah.
You only have a limited cast, a limited thing of people. So the monster could be at your house, but it could be at your friend's house in Bottom Road within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Whereas in the city, as Jason Goes to Manhattan showed, he just walked into the middle of the city and they all run, but there was no fear factor.
Yeah.
Where if you're stuck in Crystal Lake, it's smaller, it's more compact. It heightens the tension.
Yeah.
And heightens the fear. And I think for the world, you wouldn't go walking in the woods, and that lovely scene where the entire town goes into sort of lockdown and people lifting their kids and running into the house.
Yeah.
And locking their door at night. That's one of those times where you don't lock your door at night and anybody can. It's one of those, but this all changes that.
Yeah. It even says
what that is.
It even so Jane's narrating this film, and at the start she says it's a town where everyone cares about each other.
Yeah.
What do you think of the narration aspect?
I liked it.
Yeah.
Again, it added into the fairy tale thing. It's somebody telling the fairy tale.
Right. Yeah.
Afterwards, it's that nice wee narration sort of thing that Disney would do in some of their movies. So it didn't have a problem with that. I was quite happy with that.
Yeah, I think narration in general can get a bad rap, but I think it can work very well.
Because there's not really that much of it when you
No,
look at the film.
it's used sparingly, and it's used as well. It's an efficient way of telling us the guy at the start was a drunk, and that's why no one believed it was a
Yeah,
murder. So we don't need
yeah,
a scene for that. We just hear it from her, nice and quick.
yeah. And I love that aspect where Uncle Red doesn't believe Marty and Janie that Reverend Lowe actually is the werewolf. Because that's one of my favorite. They're on the park bench beside the lake and they're
Yeah,
talking about it.
yeah,
And Uncle Red says, "I'm too old to play Hardy Boys Meet Reverend Werewolf."
yeah.
That line kills me every time. I used that in the quiz one night, and nobody knew what movie it was from. I said, "Shame on you, go home and watch it now."
Yeah, there's actually quite a few good lines in this movie.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like the other part when we're talking about fairy tales. When he goes to, takes the kids' chains, the Sir Christopher medals, which are made of pure silver, to the gunsmith to get melted down and made into magic bullets, silver bullets.
Yeah,
And the smith he says he was an old world craftsman, and Joe that narration there was beautiful.
yes,
And then he said to him, "What are you going to shoot with a silver bullet?" And he goes, "A werewolf."
yeah.
And he goes just his face, and he's just okay.
Oh, that's good stuff. And yeah, so he melts down the silver that Marty and Jane gave him and makes a silver bullet. I believe in the book they made two silver bullets, and in this one it was just one.
So
So
I can't remember how many they made in the book, to be honest with you.
yeah.
But they did make silver bullet in that as well.
So
Um,
at the very end of the movie, Red convinced the two parents to go off on some trip. So it's Uncle Red and the two kids in the house, knowing that the werewolf is probably going to come for Marty because Marty knows who he is. I also laughed
but
when Reverend Lowe called him a meddling little shit. I thought that was funny.
yeah, can't be
Um,
saying simple words like that. And
yeah,
then Marty, we forgot to mention that Marty actually sent him letters telling him to kill himself,
yeah, and
or they would tell everybody who he was. So that pissed Mr. Reverend Lowe off.
yeah, and
But
he was saying
okay,
that even if he wanted to, he said he knows
he
that's
can't.
he can't because that's a really big sin.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, he comes for
I think
Marty.
I'll.
Yeah, go on.
No, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say at the end he comes for them, and then Uncle Red and Jane and Marty, have a fight with the werewolf, and Marty eventually shoots him in the other eye with the silver bullet to finish him
Yeah.
off, and then we get a
Yeah.
neat little transformation scene. So the werewolf is killed, and he's reverting back to his human form, and that's where Uncle Red's looking, and he's like, "Holy shit, all this was real."
Yeah, it's very. I think that scene. I think when it attacks the house, coming smashing its way through the wall was awesome, and you get to see it in its full glory. And it's a really good werewolf. It is. Do you know what? I know I'm gonna. This isn't a plug, but on the cover of The Wolves of Chernobyl, that's looks like the Silver Bullet werewolf, but it wasn't intentional. It was a complete accident.
Right.
Um, I like that werewolf because it fits that fairy tale sort of feeling for the film.
Yeah.
The only thing I thought was dumb was Uncle Red taking the bullet out of the gun, even though they know. But then he goes, "Oh no, it mustn't be." But why would you take it out of the gun? Well, it adds to the tension and the action of what happens when it
Well,
bounces down the drain.
I think
But it
that
just didn't react.
I think that Uncle Red doesn't fully believe this, but he told the kids he would sit up with the gun. So I think like
Yeah.
safety regulations mean that I think you have to have your gun unloaded, something like that.
Let me
Um,
tell you. See, if I thought it was a werewolf come for me, I would be going to the toilet with that freaking gun.
yeah,
Never
but
mind take the bullet.
that's the thing.
Until the daylight came, and I
That
heard the first birds of the morning, that'll do me, I'm alright.
that's the thing though. Red doesn't believe this fully.
Yeah. Alright, I had a private with Marty, I took the gun off, said, "Right, you go to bed, I'll sit here, and when you hear the gunshot, then you know all about it." And there'll be a dead naked priest lying in the corner, just to let you know.
I laugh. You come down in the morning and there's just a dead naked priest. Like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, yeah. What's Reverend Lowe doing in another corner with no clothes on? And by the way, where's the wall? The wall.
He's like, there was a wall
Yeah,
here
but
when I left you.
we had all family photographs there. What happened to them? But I think that the reverse transformation is actually quite eerie.
I think
There's
so. When
almost like a,
you see close-ups
yeah,
of the body hair going back into him, and it's like, ugh.
yeah.
It's
I sure going, ugh, and it's almost like a moonlit shine off him, like a whiteness
his
as it's
face.
happening, and
Yeah, his face is
yeah,
very pale.
not an eye between them, like them fucking no eyes, all the eyes hanging out. But I just thought, again, right to the end, it's just, it looks like they've really put thought and attention into it. And let's give the audience value for money, because I know everybody talks about the American Werewolf in London transformation, but for me, this one is more realistic and more sort of the way it would happen. If
I
that makes sense.
I get what you're saying, but I fucking love the transformation in American Werewolf. I
Oh,
think
don't get me wrong, love it too. And I also love The Howling, where Robert Picardo became the serial killer. And remember, he turned into the wolf. That's outstanding. Though nothing can ever come towards them.
I've heard
I just thought this one was a bit
I've heard
beepier.
I've heard people criticize the special effects in this, saying that the werewolf costume doesn't look that great and all that. But I mean, it's not, you're not talking the Thing levels of special effects, but I think
No.
I think it all works okay. But
Yeah.
one thing I notice is that I find it easier to get into a bad practical effect more so than a bad CGI effect, if you know what I mean. If a CGI
Yeah.
effect is really, really bad, I find it really hard to get into it. But a bad practical effect, I think, can still keep me drawn in, if that makes sense.
Yeah. There's a film I think I've mentioned to you called Mutant. It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's actually an environmental story. Wings Hauser, that died there last week or the week before, he's in it. And it's early 80s as well. And the story still stands, but it was a very low budget. And you can see the practical effects on some of it. And you sort of go, oh, there's a big silly hand. Oh, actually, do you know what? Do you know the Fantastic Four, the very first one,
Yeah.
Roger Corman did?
Ye-
Do you remember
Oh,
Reed Richards' arm that went out?
it's that's the
Stretchy,
one.
but you know,
That's the one where they didn't actually release, isn't it? Yeah.
yes, that's it. You know, he's big rubber arms go out, but it's actually two poles with a glove on it. And you can still sure that's two poles with a glove on it.
I
It's that level. It's that level you sort of lose it, but I can't really fault the effects on Silver Bullet
I
at all.
I believe that Fantastic Four movie was, I think it was created just to keep the rights to the movie.
Yeah.
I think because if they didn't make
Well,
something, they were gonna lose the rights. So I think that's the only reason they put it together. I think.
yeah, you're gonna have to watch it because you can't go to the afterlife with Reverend Lowe without watching the old Fantastic Four.
It's just, man, they ask you at the pearly gates, have you seen this Fantastic
Yeah,
Four movie?
no, I'm sorry, it's not your time yet. You go back. Let's just say drinking game again. Watch it with a few drinks. I mean, it's terrible, but it's in those days. Well, you didn't have CGI and all that, so
Yeah.
I mean, for me, all those films are like what we have now wouldn't be here without all those silly effects or
Well,
half-hearted attempts.
it's one thing that really annoys me when I show someone like a really old movie. We'll say like Jason and the Argonauts, and they're laughing at the effects because they look so outdated and all that. And it really annoys me because for what they had to work with back then, they did a phenomenal job.
100%.
And you have to appreciate that, you know.
The stop motion that he did, like especially the skeleton fight,
The
that's hundreds of work.
Yeah, and the choreography and all the stuff that goes into it, it's so impressive.
Yeah. But people are so used to, kids are so used to these days, and I say kids, I mean up to mid-30s as well, are so used to CGI and everything else, they don't practical effects for me work much better, and I think the best example of that was John Carpenter's The Thing.
I think
They
that's
were all
the
practical effects.
I think that's
And
probably the peak of practical effects would be The
yeah,
Thing, I would say. I think there's only
but
one shot in the entire movie that I think doesn't look great, and it's only a little bit. But everything just looks fantastic in that movie. Everything else.
what one?
What one?
What one there?
Is I think there's a bit where a body looks a little bit fake. I'll have to rewatch it, but I remember there's one bit where I'm like, oh, okay, maybe that little bit, but like that's one thing out of the
Okay.
whole movie.
Yeah, oh yeah. But I mean, if you so you've got that film, and then you've got its prequel, which was made with CGI
Yeah.
and practical effects,
Well,
and the CGI was woeful.
what I heard was that they had done a lot of it with practical effects, but the studio thought it wouldn't fly with modern audiences. I think so. I think they were told to
Yeah.
redo a lot of it with CGI. I don't know, something like that. But it's certainly
The thing is,
it's funny how you can look worse than a movie that's like decades older. You know, it's
yeah,
hilarious.
For me, it was because the CGI in the prequel was just a big donut with tentacles, and
Yeah.
it just with pair of legs, and it always just seemed to be that. But when you got to the scene where it merged its face into the other guy from NCIS, I think he is,
Yeah.
that's practical. Whereas the CGI version of it just didn't look right. The only bit it actually did work was when the other woman on the base said to the heroine, "Come in, the snowmobile keys are in the drawer," and she takes her in and she's turning into the monster behind her. That's the only bit that sort of kind of works, but the actual monster never looked right. But when you look at John Carpenter's Thing, it looks right all the way through, and there's no CGI. So that's a good example of maybe practical effects do have a place these days as compared to the CGI only stuff.
Yeah. And then, like a lot of those old movies where there's all this behind the scenes footage of how they managed to film them and do the effects, like all that stuff is great. You can't really do that nowadays. There's not much to kind of talk
No.
about. It's just, oh, this is CGI, that's CGI. I mean, CGI can be great. Like sometimes when there's some movies that use CGI, but you wouldn't even notice because it's done so well. Like it can be, it's still a great tool. I don't think CGI is inherently bad or whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
Hear me
yeah,
out,
it's
she's
not to
right.
be all and end all, but I don't think it's like inherently bad either. I think it has its place for sure. But I
Yeah.
do love these old movies with their practical special effects, and it's just so much fun. And I think as well that even a bad practical special effect, as I was saying, can draw you in because at least there's something physical on screen.
Yeah.
Whereas a bad CGI thing,
But
you're like that's not even there. No one's even looking at that.
yeah, 'cause everybody will automatically jump on a bad CGI. But if you think of like the films of like Basket Case, do you remember that one?
Yeah, yeah,
Well, now that is so bad, it's good. And it was Peter Jackson did that, and then you jump forward, you compare that, which is made at the same time roughly as The Thing, and it's like night and day,
yeah,
the practical effects. So even then, it sort of depends what you are. Whereas the Howling, for me, I don't know how they did the werewolves at the end. It must have been computer based. The werewolves standing on the road howling.
yeah.
But I mean that transformation with Robert Picardo, who's the Doctor in Star Trek Voyager, is just unbelievable. It was Rick Baker.
Yeah.
I think.
Silver Bullet, how would you rank it with other werewolf movies? Would it be in your top 5 werewolf movies?
100%, yeah, 100%, without a doubt. It's just, it's not overcomplicated. It doesn't try to be overcomplicated. It's just a fairy tale set in a small town. It's told by a brother and sister, and the end narration is perfect because it's a love story, or it's a love letter to the trials and tribulations of being siblings.
Yeah.
So no matter what comes at you in life, even if it's a big werewolf, you can overcome it because you love each other.
Yeah,
And
I
that
mean,
sounds very simplistic,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
it works.
at the end, Marty and his sister tell each other they love each other because this whole ordeal has brought them a bit closer together, and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
overcame it together with the help of the great Uncle Red also.
Who, who's lying there and is afraid to open his mouth. He's like, oh my god, I was a big werewolf. But it's such a progression. I mean, there's a story arc there I literally just thinking about because she hated him because he was disabled. He was a pain in the arse. She was resentful, but by the end of it, listen. Despite everything else, I do love you.
Yeah.
It's. I'm just a sucker for that sort of thing.
Oh,
But
absolutely, yeah.
the film from start to finish, and it is a thing in real life. No matter what happens, if you love each other, you'll get through it.
Yeah.
You will get through it.
And then even Red's little arc of just like drinking less around Marty, and
Yeah,
he changes a little bit throughout the movie. Like, and it's all,
yeah,
a lot of it is subtle as well. It's not thrown in your face. You know, some things
yeah.
you'll notice it or you won't, but it's there.
I actually at the scene where they're at the family barbecue. I said I've watched this dozens of times, and there's actually a line in it that I never heard until a couple of weeks ago when we watched it. And he says something about a lizard, at the barbecue, lizard meat. And I went, I never noticed that before. And then, as I said, when we're doing these podcasts, we're really watching them.
Yeah.
Whereas before you might be distracted with your phone or something. But it's just, when you actually look at it, but I thought this before we sort of brought the silver bullet up as a possibility. It's just so nuanced. The villain is layered. There's nothing.
He's just
I
not.
think actually,
He's not
yeah, he's
just
not
a.
your running in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what did I watch? It's like, that movie Werewolves that was out last year
Haven't
with your
seen
man
it.
Frank Grillo.
Never watched it.
Don't bar.
No.
That's a good example of how CGI werewolves don't work, and what a terrible script, which could have been amazing.
Yeah.
But and again, that would be a simple story. And the Wolfman didn't work either. Again, it was CGI, and it's just well, can we not go back to practical effects? Because these guys, Howling, American Werewolf, Silver Bullet have shown it. Dog Soldiers have shown it works. You
Love
don't
dog.
need CGI. It doesn't work. Yeah, they're great movies, but those are the great werewolf movies. Yeah. Well, not including the Wolfman,
Well,
the original
what
with Lon Chaney.
What you kind of see in this movie is that when you are restricted, you end up being a lot more creative. Like, there's so many little creative shots here and there, because they can't just, do a big CGI werewolf that you see all the time. So it kind of pushes you to be creative, and I'd like to see a bit more of that.
If you look at the very first Wolfman with Lon Chaney, the black and white one, you get to see the hand, you get to see the feet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a throwback to that. I think it's better not to reveal it all.
Yeah.
Try and hold it on. Like, that's my big problem with that scene with the werewolf in the funeral thing in the chapel. That's my problem with, because it was too soon and it tipped over. It throws it off balance because you know who it is. And then when we're talking about Lo saying, "Oh, my religion doesn't allow me to kill myself," I always thought it was actually the wolf would let him kill himself, because human Lo is in bed going, "Please God, let it end."
Yeah.
But when he's up and about, the wolf has more control, especially close to things. So the wolf is the dominant part, and it won't let him kill himself.
Yeah, it seems to, like, the more the movie goes on, the worse he becomes.
Yeah, because you're getting to the full moon, and that's when he gets wolfy. Full wolfy.
Full wolfy.
Full wolfy, we shall say. But it is a great movie. It's one I would recommend to anybody. If you want something simple, like, it's the same feeling as Salem's Lot, small town. There's something in the town which isn't right, and it's going to destroy what was there. It's that same kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And if a young boy in a wheelchair, and I think it's also good when they talk about inclusivity and diversity and all these days. It wasn't setting out to do that, but it was nice to have a disabled character
Yeah.
as one of the players. Because at the end of it, you could say the message also is, I can. Disabled people can do things too.
Yeah, I mean, there's that
So,
there's that aspect throughout the movie where people are underestimating Marty, and he shows he's very
yeah,
capable.
yeah. And as I said, I can fully identify with that.
Yeah,
Fully identify with that because I get it, and I'm 56.
yeah.
And people will look at me and go, oh, you can't. Is that right? So last year I jumped off a boat in Turkey. So there you go.
There you go. So Silver
Then I
Bullet.
couldn't do it. I didn't. Yeah.
So Silver Bullet, go watch it. It's good. It's
100%.
a really underrated werewolf movie, I think. If you have seen it, let us know in the comments what you think of it. If you haven't seen it, do you plan on watching it after listening to this? If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe if you want some more horror content. We plan on covering a lot more horror classics and some of the newer stuff too. We're thinking about doing David Cronenberg's The Fly next. Owen, what do you think of The Fly? Do you think that'd be a good one?
So at the start of this says, I love this Silver Bullet. I also love The Fly.
The Fly. The Fly
I have
is
a different take on it.
Owen has a different take on The Fly than most people. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there's 2 takes. There's 3 takes on it.
Whoa! No spoilers. We're going to save that one. You can tell.
Spoilers. No.
You can tell.
Everybody all talks about the first 2, but for me, there's a third one.
Oh, okay.
And it's just, it is an amazing movie. There's no 2 ways about it.
No,
and I was actually writing about it today
on timewarriors.com. Oh, sorry, .co.uk.
Yeah.
There you go.
Warriors and Beyond.
If you want some good articles, go to timewarriors.co.uk and check out some of Owen's articles, and you can find a lot of his work there. You can follow me on Instagram at Stephen Carey Stories. My horror novel, Gordon Night Bad Dreams, is available on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check that out. And we shall see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.